And we are live. Good morning, Texas. Good morning, Louisiana. Here on your TV on Smart Money Culture TV. I have my trusted brother here, David Porter. Hey, David.
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me on here. It's the Impact Money Show. We'll take an insider look, insider trading. Just kidding. It's not financial advice, but we're going to give you a great strategic analysis of the markets and go over some of the world events. We have these presidents and these warmongers really causing ruckus and developing huge spikes in the oil and causing all this inflation to unravel. And it's really hitting us hard. And
it is something else. I'll tell you, there's a lot going on. Of course, we're in a situation where Iran is looking like the cool heads at the table here. We have Iran, historically known as some crazy guys, and they're looking like the cool heads here. You have, of course, Putin saying, "Hey guys, this is time for diplomacy." Over there, and then as well, of course, we have the markets. The markets are pretty crazy right now. They look like they're primed for a rebound. I'm so tempted to go long, but I'm still on the sidelines, just waiting for a little while longer for things to give me a few more signals. We'll see what Matt has to say about it. It does look pretty nice though. But everything really is kind of just pretty tepid out there. You have gold, very, very small pullback, still over $2,400 per troy ounce. You have silver that is still pushing $30. It's up above 28. You have oil. Oil is hanging out there around 84, 85, which is a bit of a pullback. It was above 86. The Dow futures is up though, and that is a pretty good indicator that the stock market is going to go up. And the way these markets work, when the stock market goes up, usually everything goes up. That's usually, not always, but that's usually the way it works. People start to get ahead on their trades, and then they decide to put their money into other things. Just like when the stock market goes and the Dow goes down, of course, people need to cover their margin calls and everything else, and it just takes the whole thing down with it. So, I think you see Putin taking a bigger role here. Of course, that is as the bombs are flying over there in Eastern Europe. You have bombs on both sides going off. Crimea is on fire right now. There's a recent explosion over there as well. We have some attacks in, I forget the city, but they're in Ukraine as well. So they are going back and forth. In the U.S. here, we have protest all over everywhere, and of course, I have a very pro-U.S. following, and I am very pro-U.S. as well. And put these people in jail. They shouldn't be shutting down the highways and everything else. And I'm glad I'm not any of those highways. I'm not on any of those highways. Don't have to have that commute because that is pretty annoying. But one thing that they're saying is that these guys are funded, they're organized, and everything else. And yeah, absolutely, they are 100%. These people are well funded and organized. It is war. It's war, and war is profitable. And these entities and these NGOs and these countries, they have money. So pretty interesting, actually, what we have going on in the news. We're going to bring on Matt in about 10 minutes here. So I do kind of want to run over some stuff because I'm going to just kind of go through my my X feed because I mean there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Let me just get my screen share going here. Because one of the other things I want to talk about is we have a situation now in New York City where they are trying to move the migrants from. They're trying to move the migrants from the
comfortable hotels.
Yeah, from their nice hotels. Migrants, NYC. Okay.
Into a little more of a gymnasium bedspread layout.
Not only that.
So here they are. Out in front of city building there.
Who's the spy?
I don't know. That's why I clicked on this one so we could have a better look. Ashley St. Clair. So funny. Now it's not a funny thing. You know, Tucker talks about this. This is an invasion. It's an invasion. It is what it is. And you know, they're almost all men of fighting age. Here they are. They're protesting because they're going to have to move from their luxury hotels into more of a gymnasium setting.
Going on here? What's going on here? What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing over here? Why are you guys in line here? What the fuck is going on?
So yeah,
Right.
you can see yeah. So that's going to be fun for them to deal with. I mean, and here, you know, the thing is, here's what Trump had to say about it here.
The police can do it; they can stop it, but they have to be allowed to do their job.
To address the inner cities of America and give them hope to restore the American dream. Atlanta, New York, Philly, Chicago, DC.
We're going to come in, and number one, you have to stop crime, and we're going to let the police do their job.
You know, the thing is, and I'm gonna switch back to that in a minute. The thing is that in Trump's position, like you come in and if you become the president, you are the president of all people, and so it's a very delicate situation to say, you know, because, and I see people running around and they're saying, oh, 7.2 million migrants have entered, and you know, this, that, and the other, and it's I don't know why you guys keep running with that number. It's well over 20 million since the Biden administration took over. Tucker told us it was 22 million. It was 10 million like a year ago, and then they, like, instead of it going up, it went down or something. Like, people are still pouring over the border. Like, come on, guys, use your head. So yeah, it's a delicate situation. They're also they're passing out flyers in Mexico telling the people to make sure that they vote for Biden before they come over the border. Vote for Biden. I'll tell you what, the consensus was in Europe that this was it was over. Kinda. You guys are screwed. And you know, you got to sit back and say, "Ah, man, I'll tell you what. I mean, barring some major deportation force or something in the, I mean, we're talking like Operation Wetback type style." And I don't say that to be rude to anybody. That was what they called the operation back in the 70s, I believe it was, and they removed like 5 million people that were here illegally. So barring something like that happening where we're going to remove 20 million or 50 million people from the U.S., and I think the number really is, I know it is, it's more like 50 million people that have entered here illegally. But so many of them have already had kids, and you know, they now have roots here and everything else. That yeah, it's not looking good as far as all that's concerned. I have videos of myself, and I've been a staunch, you know, get them out of here and everything else. But I will say that I think that the way forward, more than likely, is trying to find some way to work together with the majority of people that are already here. It is what it is. You may not like it, but that is what we're dealing with. It's just like I always say with the situation in Eastern Europe and the situation in the Middle East, guys, you got to work together, okay? I don't know. I mean, We'll see, I guess, kind of what happens there. So while that's happening in New York, of course, you have protests going on across the U.S. This Israel Middle East war, this Middle East war is very much it is emotional for a lot of people. It's emotional. People, they construe the state of Israel with Israel from the Bible, two totally different things, and they get emotional about it. And then, of course, the Israelis are emotional about it, and people are emotional. People are very emotional about it, and so that's and they're emotional over there about it too. So we have protests around. Most of these are now that I'm scrolling through this, most of these are focused on protests in New York because that was such big news. But we do have protests all across the U.S. And they're calling, and whatever they call them pro-Hamas, or they call them anti-Israel, or they call them whatever it is. They're almost really just anti-war. I think it's anti-war protest going on. People aren't as keyed into what's going on over there in Eastern Europe. Why do you think that is, David?
That's a tough question, right? I think it goes to the personality difference, and how the Europeans tend to be a little more conservative with each other. They don't necessarily push their friends into doing rambunctious actions or causing some ruckus in the middle of the streets. And Europeans tend to push their friends to respect elderly people more, to respect their neighbors more. And you don't see as much of a almost lower class instinct, and they tend to be a little more well mannered. And I think that's part of the reason that the U.S. has such a big push for this burning down city type of attitude.
So I would agree. I think the other part is that nobody really wants to talk about is that the Israelis are embedded in our government. They're like embedded.
Well, this is what has come to light over the last few years, right? We saw it a long time ago, and now it's really out there. You can find all the information about it, and this is their standard textbook agenda.
Mm-hmm. So it's a combination. I absolutely agree with you. It's an astute observation, and then as well, I think that has a lot to do with it. So they get they're very riled up. They're very emotional about it. It's their country over there. Every person from that heritage is able to get a passport there. So they're all by default Israelis, and of course that has emotional attachment. It has emotional attachment. They have a homeland over there, so I definitely think that's part of it as well. So pretty interesting stuff. Let's move on to the markets. We have the great Matt Dixon with us. Matt Dixon from Are You Swimming? The Crypto Bros are underwater in Dubai. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, we're still underwater. Good morning. So I'm tucked away here at home, not able to get out. So we've had all the major roads underwater. I did try to venture out last night, but you couldn't get anywhere. I even saw some roads collapse. You see about those sinkholes or whatever. I saw a couple of cars just disappeared into sinkhole.
No way. I mean, we're talking like major. That's what I was like. My takeaway was like, this is like major. This is not that. It's not going to like the water's not going to go away. Everything's going to go back to normal tomorrow. Like, there's going to be stuff to fix. This is going to take a while.
I mean, Dubai fixes itself or gets fixed very, very quickly. So I did expect the sun is actually out shining now again. Yesterday, when we were talking, we're on the show 2 to 3 p.m. It was literally dark outside, absolutely dark, and thunder and lightning and lashing rain. And so all the roads were turned into rivers, cars getting, breaking down, getting flooded everywhere. As I say, sinkholes appearing, swallowing cars. Sad news. Just on where I live, there's a couple of people actually got electrocuted, died, which is obviously that must have probably happened elsewhere. But when you got water, coming into houses and everywhere, then it doesn't hit the electrics, and that's
I was
it.
thinking about that as I saw people walking through the mall splashing water with all the electricity on. I was like, oh dear. And wow, it happened.
I thought that too. I mean, I saw the metro. I shared some of the videos. I mean, of course, we're in a lot of the same WhatsApp groups, and the videos coming through. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we didn't go. I think that probably Token 2049 will be able to pull it off, but I'm not sure about the other one, Blockchain Life. I'm not sure how their event went.
I think all events were cancelled yesterday. I was supposed to go to an event last night. That was cancelled. We genuinely couldn't get out. As I say, I tried to venture out. It just wasn't possible. Some of the events have been rescheduled. So I'm going to that event that was supposed to be last night. I'm trying to head out there tonight, but I still don't know whether the roads will be passable or not. I don't know. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was surprised to see
anything like that
trying to get around.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the worst rain. Supposedly the worst rain in 75 years that they've had here. And I know everyone's talking about cloud seeding, but I understand it was nothing to do with cloud seeding, or maybe the cloud seeding don't want to accept responsibility. Who knows? But, I understand.
I would be like, who? Wait, what do you mean? What?
That's not natural. Can't be possible.
Yeah.
Well, we might have overdone it just a little bit there. No, but of course, I mean, it could be that it was natural, but holy smokes. I mean, everybody does know that the cloud seed, it's actually, they've even said it before. I don't think it's a bad thing that they do it, especially the way they do it with electricity. But yeah, it would be interesting. We'll never know. But
well, this one was
anyway,
bad.
On to the day's events. So interesting just to discuss a little bit around Israel, what the response is likely to be. I heard yesterday from somebody who's very well connected that they're not going to respond until Saturday. So this is Israel retaliating for the, everyone retaliates for something else and retaliating for something else.
Tat they have going on.
It's
over
a big
there,
chain, and you hope that chain will be broken at some point. And it will end, the trouble will end. But the next in line is Israel say they have no choice but to retaliate. And I'm told, though, it's likely to be against the Iranian proxies, not against Iran homeland, motherland, whatever.
This seems to be that's how they're going to do it. And they probably will be able, I mean, who knows? I don't know. But yeah, obviously, if they attack Iran, that's going to be an immediate response. If they attack some proxies, then they'll probably be able to kick the can down the field a little bit.
But the problem is Iran did this attack on Israel. Was it Saturday? I think it was. Lebanon, and when I say Lebanon, I mean Hezbollah in Lebanon, who have massive firepower. They actually stayed out of it, which is really, really strange, extremely strange. So there's something going on behind the scenes that I don't quite understand, but it's not the end of it. Why would Hezbollah have stayed out of it when Iran were doing this heavy bombardments, over 300 or 350 missiles and drones and so on, attacking Israel, and Hezbollah stayed out? Hezbollah are in constant, warfare with Israel, constant. So why did they stay out of it? And I do think there is going to be a coordinated, this isn't the end of it, definitely not the end of it, even if Israel have a relatively restrained response come perhaps Saturday.
I mean, it's just such a shame because, I mean, they've basically been fighting forever. Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of it. Of course,
they have, but it's these sort of, it's almost inbred hatred. It's not just hatred that they learn. It's actually inbred. They grow up with it. Absolutely grow up with it. So I know you talked just now about a biblical perspective, and obviously there is that angle to it, most definitely, and maybe that's the root of it. But obviously, the land was divided up a long time ago. It wasn't just divided to Israel. Don't forget all of those borders around the Middle East. They're all arbitrary, man-made borders. They're straight lines. They don't follow any geographical terrain or anything of that sort. It's divided up with straight lines. This is done by the West, the ruling powers in the West mainly. And they divided up the Middle East, and Israel got their bit. but it goes beyond that, because the other Middle Eastern nations aren't necessarily fighting against each other. It is just against Israel. So it's a more fundamental difference between them, as you say, may go back even to biblical times.
Yeah, I just we need to get everybody making more money, and
absolutely,
and
Bruce.
That's how we do it.
That's how you do it. Prosperity is the way to do it. Prosperity is the way out.
Yep.
So let's look at a couple of those charts. I hope you can see my gold chart.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it just is looking so strong, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, talking of prosperity, anyone who invested in gold, but that brings me on to another little conversation potentially. We know that, and we can track that a lot of the governments, central banks around the world actually have been stocking up on gold now for quite some time. And they got involved before this major rally to new all-time highs. And the reason I mention it is they either know something is going to happen, and maybe gold is a safe haven. Although, as I mentioned yesterday, during the 2008 crash, even gold suffered a 30% hit.
Yep.
During the 2008-9 financial crash. So, but gold is still seen as a safe haven. No matter what, you still have your gold, and eventually you'd expect it to pick up. But fiat currency is a slightly different thing, and fiat currencies can actually potentially just evaporate and have serious problems. And we've got a few problems around the world. So China, you know, they've actually posted some figures that are reasonably positive figures, I think, only a few days ago. But they still have massive debt problems. They still have massive real estate problems, and the economy really isn't growing. And we know China have been, in the past certainly, have put out figures which are not necessarily accurate figures, and just trying to talk.
Why not? What?
I know it's hard to believe.
And well, and not to interrupt, but you know, they just scrambled a bunch of jets because the U.S. sent some reconnaissance planes over China again, and you know, this new bill too is supposed to include billions for Taiwan as well. We just seem to be stirring up the hornet's nest everywhere. And China is not somebody we want to get into.
Yeah, and that's the big issue. You see, is actually when we talk about black swan events, these are events which are pretty much completely unforeseen, and all the focus, it's like misdirection with a magician. All the focus right now is on Israel. Maybe that's having going to have a little period of calm. Who knows? I think it will bubble up again, but for now, maybe a period of calm, and it'll probably, the baton will be passed to somewhere else. And I do think that there's going to be, you know, as you say, if America are supporting and rearming Taiwan, and China had definitely said that Taiwan is theirs. So that, I think that will also come to haunt us at some point in the future.
No doubt.
Of course, you've still got Russia, Ukraine, which again is another one in the background. So there's some of the things that are pushing gold higher. Gold tends to be pushed up when you get these sort of gradual bubbling away of geopolitical tensions, but when they really boil over, even gold falls. But gold is really the hedge against inflation. And that's why gold, I think, people are expecting inflation to be a problem. We hear now the Fed are actually talking more seriously about raising the target rate to 3% instead of 2%. Yep. So if that were to happen, then they're bang on target. They're perfect. They're doing an amazing job. Just move the goalpost and you scored a goal. It's perfect.
It's perfect for them.
Absolutely, yeah. So anyway, people, you know, whatever they say, markets are a bit smarter than that. And if they see inflation beginning to edge higher, yet we are seeing some cracks beginning to occur now in the American economy. We are seeing some problems with employment figures, and that will get worse and worse. And I've said over and over, and I won't show the chart again because I've shown it enough times, but whenever there's a cycle low in unemployment and unemployment starts to pick up, then that is the time that you start to enter recession. And every single time, probably 10 times throughout, you know, in the past 30, 40, 50 years, every single time it's been followed by, when you get the cycle dip in unemployment and it starts to pick up, then you see recession to follow every time without fail. So I don't doubt recession is coming, but we still have this sticky inflation. But actually, maybe inflation is perfect when they raise the target to 3%. But even so, as I say, markets are a bit smarter. They know that inflation's a bit of an issue. And if we do see geopolitical tensions like China, as we said, Russia, China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, surrounding nations, and maybe we should have a discussion one day, just not a Bible talk, but actually just to see where these root issues came from with Israel, Iran, and the Middle East. It'd be quite interesting just to look at that one day. But anyway, for now, gold is looking constructive at or near all-time highs, looking as though we're going to push again to new all-time highs. And as we said some time ago, there's a minimum target I've got for this wave, and even beyond this wave, I'd expect there to be a pullback and then push again to new all-time highs. But we're still looking at we're 2388 right now on gold. It peaked just the other day at 2429, and a potential short-term target would be 2518, and we could get a bit of a pullback and then push higher again. But gold looks as though it is set to go higher, and if we were to look at it on a weekly, you can begin to see how really impulsive that's looking. It's looking really good, and on the monthly, it's probably even more so. I mean, just look at those green candles on the monthly. It's phenomenal. And so
it's up by 10, 11%, I think 13, 10, it's something between 10 and 13. I'd look on the monthly 30-day.
Yeah. I mean, if we go back, I'm just looking now, so April 23, okay, we were around this sort of level. So 1900 to 2500. So we're up 25% plus in the year. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Any investment that you can do 25%, especially a rock solid store of value like gold, if you do 25%, you're going to be very, very happy. So,
wow, 25 for year to date, huh?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow.
Well, when we say year to date, I mean 12 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So looking at a year on it. Yeah. So that was gold. Bitcoin. I mean, I just wanted to think about it. It really does appear that the Bitcoin rally so far has been all institutional. And what are your thoughts, Bruce and David? What are your thoughts about why retail hasn't really participated in this rally? Because we've seen in the past retail, they're the guys that drove it from 0 to 69. They got seriously burnt when it fell from 69 all the way down. Yep. And they don't seem to be participating in this current rally. Have you any thoughts about why that might be?
I certainly do. I certainly do. You know, I've said a number of times that this rally feels hollow. It's going up. It's similar like when FTX and Solana or that crew, not Solana, I guess, but it was kind of Solana as well. They were using Solana. Yeah. Pumped it up to 69,000. It felt similar, but not like this. This feels a bit hollow. Like Bitcoin is going up. There is more money in the space, yes, but the people don't have it. The people don't have it. And so the people are still struggling. And they're looking at, even though they tell us inflation is 3% and they're going to move the goalpost, the real, what everybody feels is 20 to 30%. And that's a major amount of more capital that that's having to outflow. And that would, I think, go into these markets. I think the people have less money. And that's what we're seeing here. And that's actually pretty worrying because I think that things should springboard very hard from here. But then you put in the geopolitical situation and the fact that through inflation, everybody I think even across the world, everyone's pretty much doing the same thing, is getting taxed so much. You know, we all just had to file our taxes here in the US. So the taxes are considerable, trust me. And then when you add in another 20 to 30% tax, I mean, these are numbers that we've never had to deal with in my lifetime. And I've been around a while now. And I think that is a big player in what's going on. The people don't have the money.
Yeah. Do you agree with Bruce there, David? Is that your thoughts as well?
Yeah, of course, the inflation hit hard. And I see, friends out there in Florida working full-time jobs, even picking up side gigs, and they're struggling to pay the bills. The rent is through the roof. The cost of food is through the roof. So what's left at the end of the week to put into some crypto that and this volatile market? A lot of people were going in at 70 and now they're down. So they're not too excited to put more money back in, reaching the low 60s here.
Yeah, I think the both of you absolutely nailed it. That was my thoughts completely or entirely as well. That whether it be US, you've got experience of US, certainly UK, who I'm still obviously very well connected with there, but even to some extent in Dubai, there is a lot less money in people's hands than what they used to have.
Yep.
People used to have available cash to invest in things. So this is probably telling us that some people got rich from this and the majority didn't.
Yep.
And that's probably what happened. So with all this money printing, it generally went into the hands of the wealthy few. And there's some big institutions who benefited from the handouts and bailouts, handouts and bailouts and whatever. The institutions profited, but not really the individuals. And the individuals are really struggling right now, from what I hear, really, really struggling. So inflation has been, much higher than has been reported, because it's not just the numbers they report. There's other things, simple things like insurances and things that are, really escalating at a much higher rate than actual inflation, than the reported inflation. So people are spending much more. And they're also not really they're having less in their pockets. So employment hasn't really bounced back properly since the COVID crisis, for whatever reason. So, and also, I suppose we're also getting the advent of AI and these productivity gains that we're getting from AI. Well, that benefits the employers, but it doesn't benefit the employees, because there are far fewer jobs for ordinary people. So we've got to really think about this, the implications of the advances in AI. We said it's going to be great. I think we discussed it on previous shows. And I said there's going to be more leisure time. But actually, we can't just be putting all the benefits from increased productivity into the pockets of rich people. It's got to be used for social purposes. And actually, people are going to have to be paid for their leisure time, because there's going to be much more leisure time for people. If we're going to be using robots for everything, AI robots and so on, then we need to think about what people are going to do with their leisure. How are people going to survive? Otherwise, you will only end up with unrest and problems, and you're going to get these, we're talking about war in the Middle East and China and wherever, but it's going to actually be unrest erupting everywhere if people can't really afford to live and feed and even have a few pennies left to invest in Bitcoin. So that's why Bitcoin is not participating. Retail is not really participating. Yes, institutions are, and we've seen it, and they're coming in by the ETF. It means some big money come in by the ETF. Money's come out of Grayscale. That's because people made profits early on. Also, the fees are sky high on GBTC, so people are just moving elsewhere into the others. So it's a bit of recycling, but net, there's still good institutional money overall coming into the ETFs. And now we've also got the Hong Kong ETFs, which is actually a positive, but probably there's not going to be that much. It's not going to be like the American ETFs. There's going to be a lot less money flows into these Hong Kong ETFs. They'll be a lot less efficient. What with spreads and charges and everything, they'll be a lot less efficient. But I think that the Ethereum ETF might be quite interesting, because we don't yet have an Ethereum ETF in the US, so that could be quite well, could attract a lot of money.
I agree.
And then the other thing is, it looks like it's a way of potentially people in Hong Kong and China getting money out, which has been extremely difficult in past times. So if that is the case, then a lot of money could potentially flow through, but probably wouldn't necessarily sit there long term. But it could be a good avenue for people to get money out where they've not been able to in the past. But looking at Bitcoin, kind of the big question is, where are we in the current cycle? Where are prices going to go? And I just drew on, whilst you were talking, something here, basically where in the past, I've looked at regular bearish divergence, when you connect the highs on price and the highs on the RSI. And if they diverge, then, so for example here, if I connect the high here, from this high to hit this high, it's a downward sloping line. And the corresponding lines with the RSI are also downward sloping. So that would tell you there's no regular divergence here. But there's also something called hidden bearish divergence or hidden bullish divergence, hidden divergence. So this one is basically telling us, it's showing us hidden bullish divergence. And this is where you connect the troughs or the bottoms of price here, the troughs of price, you connect them. So you can see here connected the bottom there to the bottom there of the solid candle bodies. And that's an upward sloping line. And then you do the corresponding from the RSI, connect the corresponding points in RSI. So we can see here that the slope of the line is upwards, it's an incline on the price, and it's downwards on RSI. That is what's called hidden bullish divergence. So what it's telling you is that there's likely to be basically an upward movement on price. So the trend of price is actually upward overall, even though it's pretty much sideways, it's actually upward. And it's telling you of a likelihood of continuation of upward prices. And that's why I got this arrow here. So just to differentiate, regular bearish divergence tells you of a turn in price. And then regular divergence tells you of a turn in price. And then hidden divergence tells you of a continuation in price. So that's the two different definitions. So here we're looking at a continuation of this price incline. And that's, as I say, what I've showed here with the arrow, that potentially we're looking for upside to come fairly soon. We may see it dip a little bit further. Look, these shadows here are actually indicative of potentially prices going to go higher. But I suppose we're still waiting for what the Israel response is going to be. I think if that is, reasonably, not overboard, not too extravagant a response, and if it goes down well and there's no further escalation, then that may well give us the go-ahead for prices to go higher. So as Bruce said, he's keeping his powder dry right now, just waiting to see what happens, and that's probably a sensible thing to do. I think we're getting at or near a potential turning point, and maybe this Israel action, which is probably going to come this weekend, might be the final little push down that we get. Maybe it could even push down to, a lot of people have said, maybe to 58. That's possible. And then we're likely to push higher again to brand new all-time highs expected for Bitcoin. And the same story for Ethereum. You can see again, looks pretty corrective, kind of ABC correction downwards. We may have one more push to go, although it did actually stop pretty well on the dot, had a perfect Fibonacci 0.618 retracement there. So we could soon be looking for some upside there on that, on Ethereum. And then again, similar sort of story for Litecoin. My only concern is this does look really choppy sideways. So it tells me that maybe we get one more push down, because choppy sideways is not impulsive. It means maybe we've not yet quite finished this. So potentially we've got, there's a couple of possibilities here that I've got in here. So potentially it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would start an impulse to the downside, or it could just be an ABC, and we're not quite sure which it is. So we do know that the stop loss zone, those stop losses were taken out by the market makers. That's usually in advance of clearing the way for prices to push higher, because as I said yesterday, they're collecting these stop losses. All the people who are long, expecting the price to go higher, they have a stop loss just below to protect if the price goes down. Well, we know the whales and the market makers, exchanges, whoever they might be, push the price down sharply just below this zone here. So collected all of those stop losses, and there will have been literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of stop losses in these zones across a few of the major crypto assets. So the market makers will have profited by literally hundreds of millions of dollars from the price push just below this stop loss zone. This is very typical price action. I've seen it over many, many years. I've seen it happen in FX market, currency markets, and especially in the thinner markets. And most of these cryptocurrencies are not traded anywhere near as actively as the FX pairs like euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, those kind of things. They have much higher volume. So what I'm saying is it's much easier to spike prices and collect people's money by clearing out these stop loss zones. It's much easier with crypto than it is. That will change in the future as we get more and more market depth and we get more ETFs, we get more participation. But for now, it's still a relatively compared with FX, it's still relatively illiquid. I think FX, you're talking, I mean, do you know, Bruce? I think it's something like 7 trillion a day, isn't it? $7 trillion a day, something like that.
It's a lot. It's a lot. The markets are, it's hard to even compare the liquidity levels.
Yeah. Just checking oil here. Obviously, we're getting a little bit of a turn down oil. Maybe that's due to geopolitical tensions diminishing a little bit after Saturday. So I don't know what date Saturday was, but I assume that was, you know, after that spike that we had, oil prices dipping down a little bit, and then we'll just see what happens with Israel. I think I did show. Let me just check. I did, and maybe it doesn't show it here, but we actually had a really interesting. Yeah, it doesn't show here, unfortunately, but there's a really interesting Fibonacci relationship, just saying that we're at a potential short-term turning point. I haven't got it drawn in here, and I won't do it right now. But dollar index has been an interesting one, and here there is a Fibonacci relationship. So we got the move up here, then a pull back in 3 waves here. Then this final move up from the bottom here, where I've got it labeled as Fib A, I measured from the bottom here to the top of this leg here, and then just transposed it, that very same measurement. I can, you know, move it around to here. Doesn't quite fit now, but anyway, the measurement was, I don't know quite why it doesn't fit at the moment. Anyway, the measurement was that I had, that there's a Fibonacci relationship of some sort between that wave and that wave. It was telling us of a potential top in dollar index. And even though we broke above this long held trend line here that we've been following for ages, we broke above it, we retested the trend line, then pushed strongly higher. But potentially we're somewhere near, and maybe I'll just see, that is the actual measurement there, the Fibonacci measurement. So maybe we do have just a touch higher to go with dollar index, and maybe that'll be the Israel issue. If we get that Israel attack Saturday, maybe it'll push dollar index a little bit higher. But there's a strong potential for a turning point from around this level to then turn dollar index lower. And I will just check and just see if there's any relationship here. You know, there's no fixed rule. There might be, there might not be. Yeah, look at that. Absolutely amazing. That is amazing. So basically, if we measure that and the 100% takes us to here, that's the 100% there, and then you measure this wave here and transpose the bottom of this, they absolutely coincide precisely. So that would be a really nice target. And it's really good when you see confluence of these Fibonacci targets with different waves. So what we did, we measured this wave, transposed to here, and the top was here. And we measured this wave, transposed to here, and the top was here. They're absolutely identical. Even using different waves, they coincided perfectly, the real confluence there. So that is a strong potential for the dollar index to turn there. So if we get a little bit more issue in Middle East, then I think hopefully we get some downturn. That would align perfectly. So I love it when things come together like this, that we're expecting possibly another final up push higher dollar index. That would equate with another final up push down, perhaps on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, just to finish an ABC wave to the downside, which would make up a larger B wave or wave 2. Doesn't matter which. So whichever it is, the next wave after this will be impulsive upside to take us to new all-time highs. So we're seeing now, we're beginning to see that even the different asset classes, completely different asset classes, actually supporting each other, coinciding in their interpretation of where prices are going. And I'm sure we'll see the same with Litecoin. Maybe we get just a touch push lower, but I think we're then going to push higher. Same with XRP. XRP has been hit quite hard. Most people got stopped out around this level, which was the previous lows. That was a sort of stop out level all around there. And we saw a price dip down, stop most people out. So again, maybe we get one final push down before we then get a rally to the upside there. Solana as well, again, an ABC down, which may or may not have quite finished. And again, I'd like to do some Fibonacci measurements in there just to see whether we're finished or not. But then potentially we should push again to new all-time highs. Not all-time highs, sorry, because the all-time high on Solana was actually about 260. But we could at least, I think we really could challenge that all-time high. I think that's perfectly on the cards. So if we may have finished already the downward push, or it may be close, maybe one more final little push down before we push higher. It's hard to say, but we're somewhere there or thereabouts. So I think Bruce's idea of just, feeling the market out, just seeing precisely, are we at the bottom? But I think it looks that we're close to a potential near-time bottom in the market, and I think it's going to be very soon pushing to the upside. So just a bit of patience there, and we should see it.
Yeah, and I think you're right, tying it to Israel's response, and then major push upside, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, always feels good when you can tie things together. We always like to have proper explanations as to why things are happening.
Right.
So if we can tie the response of Bitcoin, we can tie that to dollar index, which is completely, sort of uncorrelated. Well, it's correlated in some ways, but inversely correlated to Bitcoin. And then we can look at the S&P 500 again. We've had what appears to be some kind of ABC pullback. Yes, it dropped below this trend line, this long-held trend line, but it does appear to be corrective ABC down. So I do think there's still more upside to come even for the S&P 500. And I looked at the Dow before, same sort of picture there. And we can see all of the coins, yes, they're a little bit negative today in general, although Sol is in positive territory. But in general, things just mildly negative today. But I think this is just treading water ahead of the Israel response. And I think they've had enough diplomatic pressure put on them by Biden, even by Russia. You said before, Putin's trying to, as I said yesterday, pour oil on troubled water, trying to calm things in the Middle East. It's a bit funny, isn't it? As you said, when things like this happen, even the more extreme dictators or whatever, the more extreme regimes around the world come out and say, oh, time for calm it down, and so on. They never apply it to themselves, but Russia are saying, to have a level head here, let level heads prevail, let them be calm, etc. So Russia are saying that. Iran, as you say, they're being seen as being quite mature at the moment. And it's just funny how these more extreme regimes will come out and give their two penneth, but when it comes to themselves, and I suppose in some ways you could even put America in that. In some ways they are an extreme regime, but just we don't see it as that.
Yeah, we're pretty. The U.S. is pretty extreme. I mean, I gotta stop saying we. I try to all the time. The U.S. has been at war for over 100 years, basically, with little stops. Continuous conflict for pretty much. I don't know how history will judge the U.S., to be honest.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, and to summarize, I think that we're getting towards the end of this local correction, and there needs to be corrections along the way. Nothing ever moves in a straight line, and corrections are potentially an opportunity for people to join the market. You don't want to join at all-time highs, but maybe a pullback is a time, or also an opportunity for more dollar cost averaging. And that's assuming you have some money. If there's some money left after paying for all these increased prices on your goods. So if there's any money left, maybe this is a sort of time to start thinking about it. Although we're not financial advisors, but just in general, maybe it's after a pullback, it's time to think.
Yeah, the way these markets move, guys, and like you said, we're not financial advisors, but the way these markets move, and like the old saying goes, you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. So we didn't go all in at this moment, but it could be a good time to dollar cost average. I'll probably wait a little bit longer to dollar cost average myself, but it could be the right move to start dollar cost averaging right now. 62,800 is about where Bitcoin is right at the moment. I would feel a stronger urge if it was under 60, as it did kind of drop down there. But that's the way these markets work.
If I were to measure very briefly, just to do that Fibonacci measurement of this first wave down from the top, transpose it to the next wave down, that target there is, I think you just said under 60. I mean, that's 59,600, 59,005, somewhere around there. That will be where the C wave equals the A wave. And that is the most common Fibonacci relationship between A and C. So it could dip further. The next one after that is 1.618 will be the next reasonable target. That's 51,500. But a reasonable possibility would be the 100%, which is 59,500 about.
Mm-hmm. And then I think right now, I mean, Bitcoin is that's the big one. You know what I mean? I think Ripple as well is, you're going to see a nice 100% move on Ripple here. It's going to happen really very quickly, more than likely. But it's hard to say when that'll happen. You might have to sit on it for a while. That's how they roll.
Yeah, XRP is that one that you do just need to sit on. Sometimes there's just no warning and it just jumps out of the gate.
Yep.
So yeah, I wouldn't ever dismiss. At the moment, though, it's not looking impulsive to the upside at all. It's looking still a little bit worrying. Although we did get a good shadow here and then a good green candle to follow, but it's still choppy. It's sideways movement. So, like the other cryptos, I think we may get potentially one more push to the downside to finish off this down move, and then hopefully we'll get some healthy movement across the whole of crypto, across the whole of risk assets, and let's just hope retail can have some part in it, and it's not just all there for the wealthy institutions.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, good stuff. Another great report here. We have a lot of. I'm going through a lot of the stuff from Paris. We have a lot of great different projects and people that will start to roll out here probably tomorrow. I know we played the one from our friend with Crypto Mondays, but we'll start to roll those out a bit. We got some fun ones. I know Sun Money Solar group is doing some exciting things. We had a good time with them, as well as some of the other ones. We also have Player One Taco. I don't know if have you ever met Player One Taco?
No.
Player One Taco. This guy is hilarious. He shows up. He's got like I don't know 50 badges on from like all types of different conferences. He's got like 50 wristbands on. He's like, and people ask him, well, what's your real name? He says, it's Taco.
Amazing.
Anyway, he's pretty funny.
Yeah,
he had a cigar. He had a cigar and bourbon or cigar and whiskey gathering that we went to. Pretty cool guy. And there's a lot there. So maybe I'm going to talk to him. And a little spike on Bitcoin right now. They heard us talking. Retail scared. Pump it.
Let me just check what's happening. Oh yeah, nice little spike there.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I've got to head to another meeting, and I'm going to have to try and risk the roads later as well, trying to get to some of these conferences. So thanks for having me today. Look forward to catching up again tomorrow.
Sounds good, Matt. Talk soon.
Bye bye.
Cheers. So it's funny, David, we have like my X or my Twitter account. I know we're just wrapping up here, but I how much I love X and I love Twitter. And so I've been doing pretty well here with a couple of, million or multi-million impression posts and everything else. And then what do? They shadow ban you, Yeah, I know. It's like too much success is too much. It's so funny. It'll only last like a week or so, but it really stinks when they do that. Elon, come on, man. I know he doesn't have control over it. It's all done by AI. But yeah. So now if you go to my my quoted repost or whatever, I'm invisible. And it's like, and so that what else that does is it makes a lot of our posts just harder to see for people. And our hashtags, when we hashtag things, it makes it invisible too. So that'll be off, I'm sure, in a few days. That's just how they work. If you have a huge spike in impressions, it's I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'll be watching the markets very closely. We have a lot of other exciting things that are going on as well. Of course, I have to sit down with the great Fly Mackey with Smart Money Culture TV here. We've been playing a little bit of phone tag. I think we've just both been so busy. But as well, I have some exciting phone calls ahead today as we really put things together for Paris Blockchain Week. We are as well set up for Consensus. We will be at Consensus in Austin The great Sir David Porter returned to his homeland.
Hey, right. The motherland.
Consensus. Consensus is a festival disguised as a financial conference. It used to be a big conference, and they had all the suits there and everything else. It was like suits everywhere. And then they moved to Austin, and it became a festival. It's the evolution. It's a natural process. Anyway, I'm signing off. We'll see you guys in a few hours. Cheers.
Stay tuned to stay lucrative.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.